I'm going to talk to you about my Wagner Control Pro 130 HEP. The paint through this little hose back into the tub. It was vibrating. It was I could hear the motor running and everything, but it wasn't pushing the paint through. It wasn't pushing the paint through the hose here. And I'll get a little closer to it. The paint goes in there. There's a little hole here. It goes in there, goes down into a valve, and the piston, the compression, pushes the air and the paint out, or it'll push the air and paint, it'll push the paint out through here to have it recirculate. Nonetheless, it wasn't doing that, and I let it run for a little while trying to figure out what's going with it. I drained out all the paint. And I cleaned it out with water, and I tried to see if maybe water would go down, because maybe I figured something was clogged, like the paint was clogged up in there. That wasn't a problem. So without further ado, I'm going to show y'all how I took it apart. Now, I've already taken this apart, so this is going to be me telling you how I did it and kind of giving you the step-by-step on how I did it and what I planned on doing with it, which is trying to repair it for, $5 and get it back in operation after everything sets and dries. Okay, you guys, so here's the bucket. Again, I'm going to go ahead and take out my little strainer here, put that to the side. And I have already taken this apart, so I'm going to be careful to show you how I did it. I turned it upside down. I turned T15 with the security, hole there to get these out. And so what I did, I just used my drill, and I went around and tapped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe 9, 10 screws. I have them on the deck over there. And then at that point in time, I was able to actually lift off this off the cover. And also, when you get ready to contact Wagner, you're going to need this label number, and you're going to also need, if you don't have the receipt, there's a date that it was created, and that lets them know if it's still under warranty or not. I don't know if mine is still under warranty, but I assume not. And I will pay for the parts if they have it, though, for sure. Okay, so here's what we have here. Underneath here, we have we have our chamber here that is where the piston shoots in and out and pretty much compresses air in here to push out of the end here into your hose. Okay, I'm sorry, you guys. So this is what it looks like. Okay. And in order to take off, I had to take off this yellow knob here, and there are some buttons on here that you kind of got to pry the yellow around it to pop off this. And you can see here the little button goes in there, and I kind of had to put something kind of in the back of here, lift that up, able to actually this right here sits on the bottom of the yellow housing. So the yellow housing, that little roller sits right in there. And so this right here, you can take this off. I'm gonna sit that right there. Also, this here all this stuff was covered in like paint and whatnot, and I cleaned it up a lot using my mass airflow sensor cleaner. It did a good job of kind of getting that paint loose and without damaging the plastic. But what I noticed, as you can see, is that this is not supposed to be like that. This is supposed to have something in here feeling circular to some degree, and actually it's supposed to sit right on there like that, but this was damaged, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So let's go ahead and take this apart, and it's really simple to take apart. Once you get that off, you can use a flathead screwdriver, and you can actually kind of pry this right here up a little bit. Of course, mine is a little simpler than yours, and you can, at that point in time, you can actually, if this comes off like that, you can actually slide this off of your little piston. There's a little groove there. You can just slide it off the piston, and you can start to clean these parts here. And I cleaned them up really well. You can see there's the pink paint, and here's the ring that something is supposed to sit in, which is not there anymore. And this brown stuff here was the melted plastic, or maybe the paint and plastic mixed together, melted, but it was really bad. And I've cleaned this up a lot. So and here's the piston here. So in order to take the piston out, and you want to check that, because I believe the piston and the O-ring in here caused my problem. It allowed paint to get into this area, and the lubricating and the whatnot destroyed the plastic piece here, which is what I have to create. And then I also have to put another O-ring here, which I have O-rings. I'm going to refit it and try to see if I can get a better seal. But anyways, in order to get this, you're going to need a screw. You're going to need a wrench, not a big wrench, but you'll need something. And you can actually come here and you can get that, and you can turn that and get that broken loose initially, and then you'll be able to actually unscrew the whole. This is the piston valve seal, maybe I want to call it. And again, this wasn't as clean as it is now, but it did have a lot of paint. There we go. You know, I can see it better. My hand was in the way. It did have a lot of paint in there, and I'm gonna clean that up a little bit more. But what you will notice is that there is a copper washer there, and that washer butts up against this rubber seal, and that rubber seal sits on a plastic guide and those two come together like that against the back of, and I can lift this up here. You can look inside there. That's what it looks like. So there's a lot of paint in there, and I don't think the paint should be in there, which means that this seal apparatus was not working properly, which allowed a lot of paint to get down in here that I cleaned up already, and then also eventually caused my gear here to melt, because it's just spinning. It was just spinning inside. It wasn't spinning, actually. It was just spinning. It would just spin, and it wasn't moving this, and it just messed it up so much that it burnt itself up inside there. So this gear here, which comes right off of there, okay, this gear here comes off of there, and actually there's another part. Okay, the other part is missing for that. It's right here. So I'm gonna clean this up too, because that was not supposed to be like that. But here are your bearings. Here are your wheel bearings for this. One goes on top, there, and then one goes at the bottom, and then this goes through there, and also obviously you put it in here and there, and then it makes, you know, everything seats perfectly. But this needs to be cleaned, and as you can see, all this paint in here was just around all these parts, and it shouldn't have been there, and it could have been, you know, causing a lot of friction, heat, and warping and whatnot. So I'm gonna try to see if I can put this back together. I did just drop a screw. Let me get that screw out of there. Make sure I don't lose those. Got stuff everywhere right now. So this here goes to this, and obviously that other one bearing sits in the bottom, sits in the bottom of it, and it rides that pin. It kind of rides that pin. Nonetheless, my problem that I have is that, as you can see, the part that melted, because of, and it was melted, you guys. So I used my Dremel and clean this up as much as possible. I wanted to keep the natural shape of the plastic wheel, I would say, or whatever this would be called, the sprout. I want to keep the natural shape of that, because that's what I'm going to try to rebuild using epoxy, using plastic dust, maybe even a metal, some metal pins in here for more stability, and then build this back up using the actual circle here. So I assume that, again, this is metal, right? This is metal, and it really goes perfectly. It sits perfectly on. It sits perfectly on there. Like, if I look at it, it sits flush on there. It sits flush on there, and it's perfectly in there. So what I need to do is rebuild this inner wheel, keeping my bearings there. I'm going to lock those in using epoxy. I'm going to rebuild this, and then what should happen is this should go back in there, and I'm assuming I might need to make it a little bit smaller, but and I'll figure out how to do that by perhaps maybe even putting like a coat of something that I can peel off on the inside of there, and then that'll give me the little wiggle room for this to spin freely. But this is supposed to spin freely on that. As this turns, it pushes the piston that way and out, and that's how you get your air and paint mixture. So if you're having a problem where it's on, you can hear it running, but you are not getting any paint or no paint going into the recirculation, it's because there's a problem with the piston. The ring, the piston seal might be bad, and which will lead to what I have here, a bad gear rotating piston doohickey. So, okay, you guys. So because I feel like the inside of this mechanism needs to be protected, and also I need it to be a little bit, I need the part that I'm trying to create to be a little bit smaller, I'm going to fill this inside up with some tape, and just make sure I get it all the way around. All right. One. I'm going to do another piece. How long was that? I need to measure these. Pieces now, guys. I think the smaller pieces work better because, yeah, it just fits in there a little bit, better. Like that. And then let it sit down on one. Get it released. And just move it all the way around. It's going to connect to the last piece you put in there, of course. So you got that going on. Keep going. Okay, so I've added my tape on the interior of this, and I also have my measuring here, and I want to measure how big the interior is now. That way I'll know if it's going to work out. So I'm going to get my measurement here, and it's saying that this is about 26 millimeters. So cool, that's 26 millimeters. So what was the original diameter of this here? And this is saying that it was about, look at it again. The thing about it, this one look like it's a circle. It definitely is a circle. It has to be, right? And I got to get the 2 points equal to the back side. So I kind of got to do it right there and I'm looking at 27. This is saying 27.6 there. I'm gonna do another couple sides here. Do it like it will work. Nonetheless, we're gonna keep going and see what we do. Okay, so I have it sitting on there with painter's masking tape, nice and secure. And now I'm gonna cut out this hole in the middle, because this is where we're gonna put the epoxy, and see if we can't make this better. Make it a little more stable, stronger. I don't know. That heat could probably mess things up, because this probably does get a little warm. I don't know. Maybe I'll just use the epoxy and see what happens. But the reason why I was actually putting that in there, now I think about it, was to reinforce the structure, to reinforce the wheel, and that's why I wanted to do that. So now I will have to put that bearing in there once I do it, to make sure that everything is sitting properly. So everything, I'll have to make sure I put that bearing in there to make sure everything is sitting around the bearing. And I think I'm going to go just high as this right here is as high as it needs to go. I don't think it was all the way out here, but hey, who knows? I might fill it all the way up. Shoot, why not? Why not fill it up, and then I'll sand it down if it needs to be sanded. But I think I'm going to put some structural pins inside there. So let's see how I'm going to do that. Okay, so once I set the washer kind of in that groove, again, the epoxy going to fill around here. I'm going to do some screws, some small screws in there, so that way the epoxy can have just more support around there. Let's see how that works. All right, so I've already implanted my nails into the base, and now I'm going to go ahead and use my instant setting epoxy JB Well to see if this right here will give me the effect that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this in here, and it's going to make its way around hopefully everything selectively, but not to cover, not too much to but yes, just enough. Okay, so I'm back here, and it's been sitting for about 2 days now. The epoxy circle that I put together. So I'm going to take it apart here and try to see if this will even work on your Wagner 130, which they don't sell parts for. When I called Wagner, I did get a call back from Wagner. They don't sell parts for it. It has a 2-year warranty. They'll send you a new one, and I don't think they're going to send me one because I think mine is past 2 years. So with that being said, we're going to see if this works or not. So I'm going to go ahead and try to remove the all right. So this is the part that I used to make this. Now let's see if we can remove this blue stuff off here. See how strong this thing is. Okay, so here is my new piece that I'm gonna probably let dry some more. I don't know how epoxy is supposed to dry, but I felt like there was a couple soft spots somewhere, and I don't think like I could put my finger in that right there, and I'm pretty sure that's got to be harder than that. So with the tape, maybe with the tape off, it'll cure better. But I still need to clip these here. I got to clip these here down and just make sure everything is how it needs to be and see if this right here works. So yeah, all right. Okay, I got my ends clipped and I have my modified hoop here. And when I put it again, I'm on this right here. When I put this in between there, it actually fits perfectly. And as long as it does what it's supposed to do, I think this will work. So let's put it back together. Okay, so I just took apart my seal, the plunger seal that I'm gonna also lubricate. But when I take it apart, I found my rubber gasket, I guess I'll call it this. It's covered in paint. It's really hard. It's not brittle as far as like it's bad. It's just covered in paint, which I believe made a bad seal inside of this this seal plunger that pushes air back and forth. All right, so I'm gonna use my premium stripper here, spray paint epoxy polyurethane. I'm just gonna use a little bit of this to see if I can clean that up a little bit. Pour a little bit into my cap here. See that right there. Wearing gloves. Just gonna dip it in there and just let it sit on there for a quick second. See if I can't get this paint off of here. See if I can get this paint off of here. It's very slimy. So if it's gonna work, it should work for me. Also have my little brush here. Just trying to actually do it with my hands. Look at that, it's coming off, you guys. So yeah, clean these up. It wasn't broken. It was still flexible. It was just covered in paint. So I'm gonna clean this up really good with this lacquer thinner here. Use very minimal because I don't want to destroy the rubber. I don't want the rubber to be compromised, but I just want to get that paint off of there, man. He was painting with, it probably got into this right here if you didn't clean this machine properly. And they don't tell you, I don't even know, maybe the instructions do say you have to take it apart and clean it like this, because I would recommend that you need your washer to look like this. Let's get it. Put it back together. I'm gonna make sure I seal that up. So also you have this little piece here that the washer kind of sits on. That washer sits right on that. That's nice and clean. I kind of cleaned it up already. Get all that paint. Is there any paint in there? Nope, no paint in there. And then that's just gonna go right back on the end of, you have a copper washer there. I'm gonna put that in like so. And voila. Wow, much better. All right, let's put it back together. All right, now we have our plunger or seal back together. We are going to make sure we grease this thing up here and here. Make sure it gets all nice inside. I want that to be nice and lubricated inside there. And you can take it all the way out if you need to. Push it all the way back in. Yep. Getting it in there. Put some more in there. I don't care. I want this thing to be juicy in there. In fact, if I'm cool enough, I just put it in the hole. Put it in the hole. All right. So we got that in there. Can't see, but that's, you just put it in there like we took it out. I'm gonna screw it right back in. I'm gonna get my wrench, and I'm gonna do that final little. It's plastic, so you want to make sure you don't over tighten it. Nice and snug. Just gonna make sure no paint is getting out this way. All right, got that nice and tight in there. Good. The washer is probably loving that. Got this right here in that plunger. Look, in, out. As long as our wheel here works, we should have a little bit of compression to push air out of here and mix with the paint and get us back on. Okay, you guys. So when I was taking this apart, I just want to also let you know there is a green ground connector on the metal frame of this that I had to unloosen to be able to have more wiggle room with this. You may be able to do it without it. I was going to take this whole thing off, and that's why I was doing that. But that's why I have a lot more play than you might have, because I do have this ground undone a good little bit. But now I'm gonna spend about 30 minutes tightening it back up. It was definitely one of those things that I wish I had a better set of tools to reach and do. But I'm gonna put it back together now. All right, I'm gonna stick that in. Go ahead and put our little knob back on. Good there. All right. The function that allows us to go from circulate to actual pump. This right here, we're gonna lock it in to the piston. You can see that. Go ahead and lock that into the piston. Actually gonna go. And then the wheel. There we go. We might be in business. Put our other wheel here. Set our cover on top. That hole. But it should be simple. Let's see. There we go. I think I felt it. Oh man, that fits nicely. Nicely. Plug it in and see what happens. Now, last time I did this, the circulation did not circulate, nor did it spray. But let's see what happens. Okay, I see that we got some water here coming out a little spout right there, some dirty paint water, which means that it may work. But what I discovered was once I hooked up the Wagner with the epoxy plastic, I noticed that it run for a little bit and then it kind of died down. So I opened it back up and sure enough, the same thing happened again. The inside little connector that I put on the gear kind of burned up, like it melted again. I'm like, why is it melting? Then I realized, oh shoot, that must be a bearing. That metal piece that I put the plastic in must be a bearing, and the bearing is seized up, so the plastic is just running around. So I'm gonna clean the bearing up, then I'm gonna recreate the plastic. This is actually, there's some bearings in here. This is supposed to spin. This is actually supposed to be connected to the plastic that melted, and it's supposed to spin around inside this housing. And what's happening is it's gotten seized. So it's not rotating like it's supposed to, therefore creating friction, heat, and melted the plastic. And I'm wondering, did this right here get water in there or paint or whatever and it seized up? And so right now I'm actually going to take this bearing out and see if it can be repaired. So I have my screwdriver, flathead screwdriver here, and I kind of tapped it. I put it on the lip here and used my mallet, my rubber mallet, and kind of tapped it down. And I see that I got some wiggle room in there now. You can kind of see that there's some space in between here now that I'm trying to push this out. So I'm gonna keep doing that until I get it out and inspect it and see if it could be repaired. Sharp, but okay, so I see what's happening. This piece here is actually coming out of there. So just kind of rock it back and forth. I feel it coming out like tiny, inch by inch. There we go. Oh, okay. So this leads to that. Those things are covered in gunk and those are not spinning, and that is the problem right there. So let's try something a little different, because now I'm probably butting up against the thing that I'm trying to hit out. Try this right here. Surely just keep going at it. I'm pretty sure we can get it out of here. We're gonna get you out of that, buddy. Okay, so got the metal bearing out of the plastic housing, and it was tedious. Kind of had to get my little space here, and then I kind of use this right here and kind of push down on it, just being very careful. I got it out. Yeah, I didn't want to, it was tedious, took a long time. But here is the bearing, okay? And listen to these wheels. Those things, but then it just stopped working, and then it started melting, and that's because this was not spinning on these bearings, because I can see the rust here. So I'm gonna clean this up with some aluminum, get this nice and pretty, and put this back together. And I may even have to make that plastic piece over again, but I'm gonna try to do it outside of how I did it last time. I'm gonna do something a little different, so this might work out better for you guys. But yeah, got you in there. All that rust just to turn to the red stuff and just come right on out. All right, so we got that cleaned up. Now let's work on this part right here. And this right here sucker was just not going to roll for me at all. So that's what the problem was right here. Okay, so now we can see, now you might be able to see, this just rolls so much smoother around that. Okay, so we recreated the, we cleaned up the bearing. The bearing works well. I took the ring out, and I am actually going to show you guys my little contraption here. This is what I did to make the plastic. I decided to go with plastic instead of epoxy. I have my plastic welding rods here, and I used the clear ones out of here. I used about 3 of these clear plastic rods. That's how long they are. I got my outdoor stove. I have my my copper lid here that I use, and what I did is I just cut up one of those rods. I turned it on medium. I turned my fire on medium. I cut up one of those rods, put it in here, let it melt it. It's a white. It started to melt. I was able to kind of like do it like spaghetti and pick it up. And once I picked it up, I would sit it inside. I would sit this here pretty much, and I would take that plastic here, and I would take the plastic from here, and I would just kind of like fill this in with the ring on there in the right place, right? And also I had that ring in, and I kept doing this until I had it all filled. Then I took the ring off, and I made sure that there was no holes or gaps. I took the ring off because it was able to slide off. And I made sure that there was no gaps or anything. If I had gaps, I would take some more of the plastic here, take some more plastic and fill those in. Now, when I took it off, obviously I changed the shape. It wasn't very circular and symmetrical. It was kind of lumpy. So what I did at that point is, with this ring still being off on the side, I already put it together. I can't take it off now because it's kind of sealed on in there. I have a soldering machine, right? And I also have a soldering blowgun, right? And this thing blows really hot. So what I did was I just went around it with this heat, with the ring off. I went around it and kind of helped the plastic to mend to the bottom plate plastic. And I used my screwdriver at times to kind of smooth things out all the way around. And I know I can't show you because I've already done it. But man, this looks so good. It feels so much sturdier. And this is how I repaired my gear. And as you can see, I had a little bit there. But this is how I repaired my gear shaft that's going to go to my Wagner. All right, so I didn't have any super glue, so I went to the store and I got me some super glue because I do believe I want to lock in the ring around here. I do want to lock that in, so I'm going to just use some super glue to hold that in place. And I think that'll be a little bit better than it just not being in place at all. It's like so. So just gonna put some glue around here. That's gonna kind of make it bond a little bit tighter. And okay, we have our super glue. I actually took the ring off and put glue around the edge of it, and then I put some at the top so it could seal the top. And I think that's gonna be perfect. All right, here we go with the put back. Now this is the first one that I created with the epoxy. And of course, this one failed because the bearing was terribly seized on it. And now you can see with the new bearing unseized, but with a plastic, arm in the middle. Man, this is just feels so much better. So let's put it back together. All right, let's test it out. See if I get some paint sprayed on me. All right, but let's put some water in here. Let's see what happens. We have it in circulate, and let's see what happens. Okay, well, circulate was pushing water out the side, but hey, it's pumping that water. I bet that's gonna really spray out water. Okay, yo, we are good. Yo, thank you guys for hanging in there. I did a couple different things. The first one really didn't work out for me well, but I was able to diagnose what was really going on, not knowing that that was a actual bearing that needed to spin, which would cause everything to heat up and friction and melt, was key when I did my new one, and I got the same result, and that lets me believe that something was going on. So if you have this problem, make sure you get that bearing from being unseized, grease it up with some really silicone based grease, and that will allow it to continue to work for you. And you may not be able to you won't probably, if you catch it early enough, you won't have that problem with your gear melting. I do recommend maybe taking this apart before you use it. If you let it sit for a while and check that bearing to see if everything is good to go, and grease it up and make sure it's good. I think I'm gonna do that a lot more now. I'm gonna actually, when I finish using it, I'm probably gonna tear it down, clean everything out, grease and oil everything, and then put it back together. Yeah, it's your boy Yuka. Make sure you like, subscribe. I'll try to make this video as short as possible because I know it took me a couple days to get it, but I got it done, baby. Yeah.